Hello, I'm Lori Pine, the Joy CEO, and welcome to the Joy CEO podcast. I am so glad to have you here with me today. This is a podcast for ambitious women who are looking to lead with joy, not the fluffy kind of joy, the kind of joy that actually grounds you in your business and your personal life, the kind that can change the trajectory of how you show up and how you lead. I know firsthand after leading $1 billion business and spending 25 years in corporate America. And I learned a lot of these lessons hands-on and some of them the hard way. For those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who are coming back, thank you. You know I love you, and I'm so glad to be back here with you today. So we are 52% of the way through our very magnificent, rare zodiac fire horse year. We talked about it a lot back in February, in the very cold months of the year, as we were kicking off the fire horse year. And what I want to do today is do a check-in because we are at the midway point. So, how is it going? How are you doing with your fire horse year? What were the intentions you set? Do you remember them? Can you dust them off? Are they living somewhere back in a cobweb, or maybe you can recollect what you had talked about or thought about during that February timeframe? Or are you crystal clear on your intention and you're really keeping up with it and things are just happening for you? I really want to share with you some kind of amazing things that seem to be happening. And I have a tool for you that I'm going to list in the show notes so that you can do a reflection about where you're at and how this might just be unfolding for you. So let's get into it. So back in February, we talked about this lunar year, how 2025 had been the year of the snake, and we all had some shedding to do. We had things we had to get rid of, and we were just stripping ourselves of all of that. And it was making room for this fire horse year. And it was rare because we hadn't had a fire horse year in 60 years. So for many of us, this was the first time in our entire lives that we were going to experience a year with this type of energy, this type of intensity, this type of passion and magnitude, and this idea that things were going to happen that might be more powerful than any of us had control over. And for, some of us type A's who like to think that we control things, this was a year that might surprise us all. So for me personally, I had two real intentions, and I did a whole 3-day workshop for free on really only having two priorities. That in this fire horse year, you couldn't have 10 priorities, that you would burn yourself out and none of it would actually get done and none of it would actually feel effective. So for me personally, I had two priorities. I wanted to speak more and to move my body more. And I thought, okay, pretty simple, but very clear and very intentional. And I can track these things. And looking back now, literally at this midpoint, I can see what I was actually asking for. So speaking more wasn't just about getting on stages. It was sharing my truth, sharing my collection of wisdom, what I bring after the experiences of working for 3 of the world's largest companies, walking the halls of those marvelous, magnificent institutions, being in rooms with some of the brilliant minds that I have the privilege of calling colleagues, experiencing some of the most tremendous marketing assets, going to the Sydney Olympics, going to Super Bowls, hosting celebrities, being, at NCAA Final Fours, being in rooms with people who think differently, think bigger, sitting across from buyers, presidents, CEOs, vice presidents who make decisions and keeping pace with them. And I bring all of that today to the work that I do, to the way that I show up, and to the way that I want to lead. So speaking more actually meant speaking my truth, my experience, my way that I see things unfolding. And then moving my body really meant becoming stronger. Not just physically, though that is very real and very measurable, and I've been keeping track of that, and I am moving more. But it's about moving the energy. Making sure that my energy circulates and that it doesn't get stuck, and that I can move through hard things, moments when I think, am I cut out for this? Do I have what it takes to do this? Do I have what it takes to show up on social media and get weird comments? Do I have what it takes to run my own company, to go after these really big dreams that I have, this impact that I want to make for other women? And so I need my energy to move so that it doesn't get stuck and it doesn't become negative. And I think you might need that too. And so as I think about February, I didn't know that I would end up on this journey just 6 months later. So here's a few things that have just happened to me personally. I spoke at Google. I've been invited to go back to Harvard in October. I'm going to speak to probably 600 Harvard Medical School students in October. I'm preparing to talk to over 200 women to be the keynote at a women's conference in early October. And my Connect, the community that I started in December, has grown almost entirely by referral. So other women are telling their friends, their colleagues about my group because they want to, because it works for them. And then lastly, I hosted my first Connect retreat in the Hudson Valley where I live. I treated it like they were coming to my home, to my town, to my space. And I rolled out the red carpet and I wanted them matter. I wanted them to feel my love and generosity. And the testimonials afterward actually made me cry because there was so much joy in the giving and the receiving, from me to them and them to me and them to each other. And that, what I mean about speaking truth. And so this whole idea of becoming stronger, yes, I'm physically walking 3x what I used to, so I can see that in my step count. But I've also been able to walk through something really difficult with my husband. And we have come out the other side very connected, very committed, and very much aligned on how we're going to move forward. And that's really awesome. And so I think this idea of setting the intentions and then being really intentional about taking the step, the baby steps, the next right step to make sure that we show up in a way and then let that natural fire horse energy do its magic. It just so happens that if you're seeing this on YouTube, you're going to notice that my background is different. I'm in Maine, and last week I was here for Cousins Week. Cousins Week is something I do annually where I host about 20 people at the lake house in Maine. And the cousins of my boys all come. And so they're little, from 10 to 32, and the 3 sisters of my ex-husband. And I am so close to them. They are my family. And so that was all last week. And then this week, I stayed and gave myself a sabbatical. So I'm here for 10 days all by myself. And just being able to give myself that permission was really powerful. And there must be something in the fire horse energy that allowed that. Because I've had this access to this lake house for years and have never been able to do that. But right now I'm here, and every morning I'm walking. Every morning Lucy and I go out. In the afternoon, I sit down at the lake with a book, and in between I'm working. And right now it's the evening, and I'm recording this podcast with you. If you recall, the one other thing I want to mention that's been really powerful this year is that my youngest son graduated from college in May, and he relocated, started his first job, and is thriving. And 5 years ago, that was a very different story. And that was the impetus of me stepping away from my corporate career. And he is so tremendous today and doing so exceptionally. And I don't ever take for granted that this could have been a very different outcome and a very different ending to the story. But I want to share with you that we got through graduation, we celebrated, we had a tremendous party in Maine where I rented an Airbnb, and we had over 30 people in Maine with us, and then relocated him. He started his job, got him all set up in a new townhouse. And about a month later, I just drove up for the day, and I went to visit him by myself and spent the day with him. And he said, "Mom, I am so happy." And that felt like $1 million paycheck. Like we had really come through to the other side. And that I could not have foreseen in February. And I'm grateful. Grateful that all that it took to go into that came at that moment. So enough about me. Let me tell you some of what's going on with my client, because perhaps you can identify in with that and maybe see where the fire horse energy is showing up in you through a couple of these stories. So one of the clients in my Connect group had taken a package last summer from a very senior role, and she took a full year off and knew that she would start looking for work this summer. She is now, as we speak, choosing between 2 offers, very senior level roles, both dream jobs. And her dilemma is, which one do I choose? Because they're tremendous offers. Proof that sometimes before we can sprint, we need to rest. And maybe there's a message in that for you. If you have been in a sprint period, you may need to rest. Another client accelerated her exit from her company. She was CFO, and she accelerated that exit to join a consulting group founded by a female that she highly respected. And the reason she expedited that is because the world needs her expertise. And it just was a faster timeline than she had planned. But it's also allowing her to build a personal brand and a business on the side that's giving her so much more freedom and so much more clarity. And now she'll have space for both. Another client, and I've had this client for 3 years. She's a one-on-one client. She was promoted to president of her company. Another client left her company for a smaller organization and is just thriving. And she's finally in a room that values her thinking, her diversity, her creativity, just all that she brings. So being in the right room matters. And then the last client I'll share with you just declared finally that it's time for her to leave. And in that declaration, her mind is now expanded and open to what she believes might be possible. And just witnessing that has been really powerful to see. And I am certain, based on her expertise and her abilities, she will land herself in a tremendous position. So those are my clients. But I actually watched some tremendous things happen in the world in the last 6 months. I don't know about you, but I got hooked on the World Cup that just seemed to take North America by storm this summer. And whether you're a soccer fan or not, it was captivating. And it just had me hooked. The Tartan Army and the way Boston fell in love with them, their spirit, their generosity, the way they showed up, the way they gave money to charities, tremendous. How about all the Europeans who were out in rural America discovering ranch dressing and Chick-fil-A dipping sauce and how they were packing their suitcases back to Europe? How, there was real sports stories like Norway and how they made their first World Cup appearance since 1998 and a bit of an underdog and led by their star. And everybody doing the row, they were even doing the row in Times Square. And, even the star of Norway, Haaland himself, had put their odds at winning at 0.5% before the tournament started. And then there they were making it, into the quarterfinals. An entire country that nobody expected anything from. And we got so much from them. So much joy came from watching them. So I don't know about you, but a lot's happened in 6 months. Yes, I set some intentions. And yes, I keep showing up and doing the next right thing. But it sure does seem like the fire horse energy is real. And so I'm curious, are you seeing the fire horse energy showing up in your own life? Are you seeing where the intentions that you might have set, whether they've been top of mind or lost somewhere under a pile, written on a little Post-it note that is long forgotten? Are you seeing where maybe there's some sort of energy taking hold that if you look, it might be doing something for you, even without you really paying attention? I'd love for you to take a look. It's a really, really powerful exercise when we stop and take inventory. If you are looking for some sort of connection, if you are looking to be in a room with other women who are doing some of these bold things, I am opening up another retreat in the Hudson Valley, October 14th through 16th. This time it will be open to women who are not necessarily in my private community. So you are personally invited by me, and I would love to have you. We work on all things leadership. I will push you to think a little bit differently. I will invite you to include joy into how you lead. And I'm pretty sure you will leave after 2.5 days transformed. That is certainly what happened to the women in July. So if you are ready to consider that, I'll have the link in the show notes. You can take a look. And if you'd rather get a hold of me, you can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Send me a private message, because this fire horse energy isn't going to last forever. We've got 6 more months. And I don't know about you, but I sure do have a lot to get done. And I'm going to harness this fire horse to the best of my ability. I'm so glad to be doing it with you. It is a pleasure to show up each week and just get to have a chat with you. Remember, you can see me over on YouTube and where you find your podcasts. I'm Lori Pine, the Joy CEO, and I'll see you next week.